more prosperous, and more secure. Ladies and gentlemen, at the heart of this is, of course, defense and the security of Ukraine, of our continent, and of the wider world. In this room, we all feel it, what's at stake. This is a moment in history. Great challenges loom. There has been a lot of talk in the last few days, but it is always instructive to look beyond words and to recognize that we are just at the beginning of this process. Let's take stock of the starting positions. Contrast the approach taken by President Zelensky and that of President Putin. In the most difficult of circumstances, President Zelensky is prepared to work towards a peace that honors the sacrifice of his country and his fallen compatriots. As Volodymyr Zelensky said from the start, Ukraine wants peace more than anyone else, one that is just and lasting, so that the horrors of the last 3 years are not revisited ever again. On the other hand, President Putin says he's willing to meet, but on what terms? It is up to him to demonstrate that his interest is not to prolong this war. It is up to him to show that he has given up his ambition to destroy Ukraine. And let me be very clear. A failed Ukraine would weaken Europe, but it would also weaken the United States. It would intensify the challenges in the Indo-Pacific and threaten our shared interests. Because what we have seen is authoritarians of this world are carefully watching whether there's any impunity if you invade your neighbor and violate international borders, or whether there are real deterrents. They are watching us very carefully, what actions we choose to take. And this is why it is so important that we get this right. Ukraine needs peace through strength. Europe wants peace through strength. And President Trump has made clear the United States is firmly committed to peace through strength. So I believe that by working together we can deliver that just and lasting peace. And there is a lot that Europe already has brought to the table. Historic amounts, actually. Financially and militarily, the overall support amounts to 134 billion euros. That is an equivalent of $140 billion. That is more than anybody else has contributed. This includes $52 billion of military assistance, on par with the United States. We have put in place hard-hitting sanctions, substantially weakening Russia's economy. We have broken one taboo after another and smashed our reliance on Russian gas, making us more resilient permanently. And we are about to do more. We are working with Ukraine on their EU accession, because Ukraine is part of our European family, and this is where their future lies, here in Europe. And ladies and gentlemen, this leads me to the discussions we have had in Europe over the course of the last few weeks. Many in the security circles in Europe were confused, some even worried. by the comments made by a senior US official earlier this week. But we need to be honest here. And we need to avoid outrage and outcry. Because if we listen to the substance of the remarks, we not only understand where they are coming from, but recognize there are some remarks we can agree on. Because yes, both the United States and the European Union want an end to the bloodshed. We want a just and lasting peace, one that leads to a sovereign and prosperous Ukraine. And Ukraine should be given solid security guarantees. But perhaps what resonates with me the most is the need for Europe not only to speak frankly, but also to act accordingly. So let there be no room for any doubt. I believe when it comes to European security, Europe has to do more. Europe must bring more to the table. And to achieve this, we need a surge in European defense spending. Currently, the EU 27 are spending around 2% of GDP on defense. And yes, our defense spending went up from just over 200 billion before the war to now over 320 billion last year. But we will need to increase that number considerably once again, because from just below 2% to above 3% will mean hundreds of billions of euro of more investment every year. So we need a bold approach. Let's take one step back. In previous extraordinary crises, look at what we did. We empowered member states with extra fiscal room by activating the escape clause. In simple terms, we empowered member states to substantially increase public investments linked to the crisis. I believe we are now in another period of crisis which warrants a similar approach. And this is why I can announce that I will propose to activate the escape clause for defense investments. This will allow member states to substantially increase their defense expenditure. Of course, we will have to do this in a controlled and conditional way. And I will also propose a wider package of tailor-made tools to address the specific situation of each and every one of our member states, from their current levels of defense spending to their fiscal situation. Second, for a massive defense package, we also need a European approach in setting our investment priorities. This will allow the investments in much-needed defense projects of common European interest. And thirdly, we will step up our work to accelerate the accession process of Ukraine to the European Union. We have made significant progress already, but again, now is the time to move mountains in the European Union. Increase the spending possibility of the national budgets, have common European funding for projects of common European interest, and accelerate the accession process of Ukraine. This must be the goal of the new Europe that is working for these goals intensively. My message is, you see Europe adapting, you see Europe stepping up, you see Europe making a difference immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, what is being discussed here today is ultimately about us, our prosperity, our economy, our security, our ability to make good on Europe's enduring promise of peace. Our values do not change. They are universal. But because the world is changing, we have to adapt the way we act. We need a Europe that is more pragmatic, more focused, more determined, one that will counter its threats, one that will leverage its enormous strength and power, and one that is standing by Ukraine and its partners. There's a lot that this Europe can do, and it will rise to the moment. Thank you very much, and long live Europe. Is concerned, even if they have fiscal constraints, with this escape clause, this opens the door for targetedly investing more in defense. So this is individual for each member state. Then we have to look at big projects of common European interest, like advanced air defense, for example, which no member state can do on its own, but we need it all together. Then there's a point